So the upcoming general election is being framed by some as this battle for support of Britain's working class. So the red wall turned blue back in 2019. Rishi Sunak could really do with their vote, but historic clips like this aren't helpful.
I have friends who are aristocrats, I have friends who are upper class, I have friends who are, working class, but I'm not working class, but...
Yeah. Meanwhile, successful lawyer and former head of the CPS, Sir Keir Starmer, is desperate to try to convince the nation that he is working class.
My dad was a toolmaker, so he worked in a factory, and my mum was a nurse, but she was also, sadly, very ill, and so she couldn't work for very long.
It was tough going at times, and one of the things that helps me in the cost of living crisis we're going through now is knowing what it's like to struggle to make ends meet.
I grew up working class. I've been fighting all my life, and I won't stop now. I've felt the anxiety of a cost of living crisis before, and until your family can see the way out, I will fight for you.
Did you know his dad was a toolmaker? That's all well and good, though, isn't it? But do you actually know what working class means, Sir Keir?
Describe yourself as working class. Sir Keir, define working class.
No, working class is families that work for their living, earn their money through going out to work every day, not through other
Not
means.
middle classes do that?
Well, working class families have the ordinary hope to get on in life. I mean, this has been a story.
Middle classes have that
Yeah,
as
of course they do. Of course they do.
So what's the distinction?
That's a hard watch, isn't it? So, Alex, you actually dug Sir Keir Starmer out a bit for this. Do you think he is working class?
He's absolutely not working class. Look, his dad wasn't a toolmaker. His dad owned a tool-making factory. There's a huge difference between being a toolmaker and owning the factory in which you have employees that make the tools for you. Let's make that clear. He's also a multi-millionaire. He's worth at least 10 million already at the moment, right? Does that...
Is he really?
Yes, he is. He's a multi-millionaire.
Can't verify that. I can't verify that. But
I encourage people to go home and research themselves. He's a multi-millionaire. So for Keir Starmer to be planting himself out as this working class hero is absolute nonsense.
So
go on, Joanna.
Go on. What if he's worth a few £1 million? I think that, I think I had this conversation with you in the green room a couple of weeks ago that, if you start off as working class and then, through social mobility...
He didn't start off as working class. His dad owned a factory,
hang on a minute,
Joanna.
Alex, how do you know that his dad didn't start off as a humble toolmaker and then, through social mobility and working hard...
But the question is Keir a working class man? And his dad may have started off...
I think working class is about the values, and maybe his dad working in that environment as a toolmaker to begin with, potentially, and then owning the factory is actually very admirable.
Nonsense, Joanna. You know it's nonsense. I know you know it's nonsense.
When you compare it to Rishi Sunak, I think working class is about your values and being able to relate to normal people.
Class.
And if between the two of them, Keir Starmer would be the closest thing to working class to Rishi Sunak. Come on.
Now, that may well be true. However, John, Keir Starmer is banging on about being working class, isn't he?
Yeah, and I mean, that's the mistake. I mean, you've got to be very careful. First of all, ever talking about yourself in the third person. It's for other people to judge. That's the first thing to say. The second thing is, working class is a very old-fashioned way of looking at the world, bosses and working class. It doesn't fit very well. People do go to work. The moment you start talking about it, you start saying, oh, well, and you're ending up by saying, wait a minute, if people like me, like you, all the rest of it, what are they saying? Can they connect with us? People of all sorts, because that's what they've got to do, and that's what a politician has got to do. So the idea that they sort of say, well, I'm really working class, and therefore I should win the election.
But this is it, because the left have taken, and the Labour Party themselves try to make everybody working class, because there's this aspiration now. They want people to feel, I guess, I'm working class hero and all this nonsense, but it's not. The Labour Party seems to represent more and more the wealthier people of the country. We saw back in Boris Johnson's last election that the working class have converted to conservative.
No, I don't think that's
because
true.
You're right, it is about values.
That's not true.
The working class are not woke. They're fed up with wokeness.
It's about the values.
They're the ones being punished the most by all these groups.
So you're saying that being working class is about values. What are those values?
Well, I think that it's about, being able to relate to the average person. We were talking before in the break about, does Keir Starmer versus Rishi Sunak, if you were to pick between the two, who knows how much is a loaf of bread and a pint of milk, which are the two? And And also, who is the closest? Just because his dad might have owned that factory doesn't mean people own businesses and they go down and then, you know, they have to kind of adjust their livelihoods. And I'm sure that he's maybe had some stories of that. And I think that it's completely different. And when you actually look at the pledges that Labour have made in terms of for working people, in terms of, you know, just the statements that they've made, Keir Starmer clearly,
but also
rules
the other thing to bear in mind is that what you can't do is inherit experience. So the idea that it's all class. So what were your parents doing? Where are you from? They don't tell you very much about the person.
Tell you what, the working class are voting for reform. I can guarantee you that.
All right, OK. Well, there we go.